Hey everybody, David the AI Guide here, and I have questions for you. How long do you want to live? Do you want a chip in your brain to make you smarter? If you had cancer, how far would you go to cure it? Let's talk about some of that. We're doing part 2 of our book summary of Martin Ford's book, Architects of Intelligence, and there's 4 more pieces of the book that are very, very interesting. The first is that AI aids science, as you know from listening to my videos, especially medicine. We've talked about this a bunch. But one thing we haven't talked about is AI for mental health. And that is because for depression and other mental illnesses, AI is very good at recognition, right? And there's certain facial features and facial responses that identify people as being depressed or having other mental illnesses. Most humans are not sharp enough to notice that unless they've been trained for that. But you can train an AI to do that to help diagnose mental illness in people. So that would be a huge plus, right? You would be able to find out very quickly and get treatment for a persistent problem that you may not even know you have, because mental illness can be tricky. You can have a condition like depression and not really realize that you're depressed like that. But AI can aid medicine in other ways, robots to help take care of people. You got to decide if you want that or not. We've talked about using AI for patient intake, like Harvard Health is doing in Boston. And we've talked about AI reading scans, CAT scans, MRIs, stuff like that. We also very recently talked about what Oren Etzioni has done in development of Semantic Scholar, which allows researchers to get the very latest articles published on their topic of interest, published anywhere in the globe. So this is huge because, as we explained at the time, a researcher can only read at maximum 200 papers a year, but an AI can read hundreds of thousands and serve them right up to you, the most relevant, the most quoted, the most supported by other research. The next thing that Martin Ford talks about is autonomous weapons. And we did one episode on military, and we'll do more. But one of the things we talked about is the dangers of using AI for military purposes. And he specifically talks about autonomous weapons. So these are weapons that a very small handful of people can use on a mass scale. This is large scale, right? This isn't single attacks. This is country level military stuff. The problem with these weapons, which are definitely being pursued, is this can trigger a new arms race. For the first thing, which we went through all that with nuclear weapons until treaties came into effect to cut the number of nuclear weapons, which are still a great danger. I mean, the great powers still possess far more nuclear weapons than are needed to destroy the entire world. But another problem is, what if these autonomous weapons got hacked by a terrorist group and used against a country that designed and developed them? Food for thought, military folks. Another thing that we have talked about, which is the whole reason for this YouTube channel. I target my YouTube channel to folks in high school and college, men and women, and in their 20s who are just starting their career, because AI job loss is going to be real. And you don't want to be on the receiving end of that. And one of the things I do with almost every video, except for book summaries like this, is talk about jobs that are relatively protected from AI automation, so that you can think about those jobs and see if they interest you and possibly pursue them. But when there is significant job loss, which is coming in the next 10 years, all the experts say it, how are we going to fix that? Well, one of the proposals is called universal basic income, which means that if you're not working, you get enough money from the government to live on. This is not food stamps and welfare. This is actual income replacement. And a lot of people are very pro this option, but others aren't. And there's a lot of other approaches being discussed. One is job training for jobs that are not automated and will not be automated. And the income would be conditional on completing the job training and getting a job, and then it would stop. This is, again, not unemployment and not welfare. This is real money to pay you to go to school to learn something and get trained. So there's a lot of possibilities here, but your best protection against job loss is picking a job that's unlikely to be automated, which is why this YouTube channel exists and what we're going to continue to talk about almost every video, or having some kind of government support mechanism to protect people. And then the final thing Martin Ford talks about in Architects of Intelligence is artificial general intelligence and the potential dangers posed by that. So there's a lot of controversy about AGI. Some people think it's a danger, some people don't. But you know, from prior videos, I told you I went to the 2018 and 2019 Applied Artificial Intelligence Conference in San Francisco for those 2 years. 2020 obviously canceled due to COVID. But some of the things that people there said is you never want to put an AGI in charge of basic utilities. That's electric, that's water, that's natural gas. That's simply not a wise, cautious approach. And then there's other people whose attitude is if you can't beat them, join them. In other words, artificial general intelligence is inevitable given the track that we're on. So why not enhance human intelligence to compete with future AGI? There's two people that I'm aware of that are involved with this. One is Kernel by Brian Johnson, and the other is Neuralink by Elon Musk, which you've probably heard a lot about. And then I want to talk about the futurist Ray Kurzweil, who's probably one of the most brilliant people on the planet. And given the fact that he is head of Google New Ventures, he is extremely knowledgeable about the cutting edge of where things actually are and where they'll go. And hopefully I'll be able to get him on the AI Guide for an interview. I will definitely be asking him about that. But Ray says first that computers will reach human intelligence in 2029. And then furthermore, he says the singularity occurs in 2045. This is within the lifetime of the majority of people alive today. So what does Ray Kurzweil mean by the singularity? He means something sort of like what Elon Musk and Brian Johnson are proposing here with Kernel and Neuralink, which specifically is a merging of computers and humans into a quote-unquote super race or something like that. This is not far off. I can tell you with high confidence, based on what all of the experts are saying now, that in the next 10 years, there will be significant job disruption. And in the next 10 years, the computer chip in the brain will be perfected by folks like Brian Johnson and Elon Musk. These are things that are coming soon. And Ray Kurzweil, by the way, talked about the nanobots that we've talked about that are put in your body and go around and repair problems at the cellular level to prevent disease. So all this stuff is coming. It probably can't be stopped. That's why I keep telling you, you have choices to make coming up. For me personally, I think that humanity finds a way to survive the dangers that we create. With nuclear weapons, so far we have found a way to mitigate those dangers. And my own personal belief is that ultimately humanity will find a way to appropriately limit AI and use it for helpful purposes, which we talked about in part 1 and we talked a lot about in part 2, except for the later stuff. But thanks so much for watching. If you like the video, please like it. Please subscribe, share with your friends. Check out the AI Guide also on Twitter and Instagram, and please support us on Patreon. We can only keep doing this with your support. So if you subscribe on Patreon, it's a very low dollar amount for the lowest level, and it goes a long way to helping us here at the AI Guide. So thank you so much. Talk to you next time.